Welcome to 55 Questions with the Scout Guy Huntsville. This morning, we are featuring Tracy Abney of Rocket City Doulas. Tracy, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
So before we jump into these 55 questions, tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so I own Rocket City Doulas, which is a doula agency. We provide services during preconception, through pregnancy, labor, birth, and postpartum and beyond as support people.
Okay, thank you. I am very excited to learn more about you and what you do, and I'm sure those who are watching are as well. So we're going to jump right in. Question number one, what is your morning routine?
Usually lay in bed, check on social media on my phone, look at my email, go downstairs, help get the kids off to school. We do have 4 kids, 3 of them are at home. Get them off to school, drink my coffee, and then I do a little reading.
Okay, sounds good. I love the reading part especially. So if there was one thing that you could add to this routine to help it go more smoothly, what would that be?
I guess maybe not adding, but removing maybe some of that social media in the morning. Sometimes I get distracted and maybe spend a little too much time on there.
I feel you on that. Okay, what are 3 words that you would use to describe your brand?
Unbiased, non-judgmental, and professional.
Okay, I like those. And how did you decide to become a doula?
Like many people who become kind of like service or helpers, it began with my own story. I had a very traumatic first birth. And part of the reason that I became a doula was just recognizing the need for somebody else that was fully focused on the person giving birth. So not the nurse who had their job, not the physician who had their job, no one else that was like working at the hospital, but someone who was just solely there to support me so that I didn't feel so alone and scared and kind of feel like things were just happening to me. So it came and was born out of my experience of believing that there should be a better way.
Okay. Now, if we were playing Mythbusters and there was one myth that you would like to break regarding working with a doula, what would that be?
It would be that doulas are only for unmedicated or natural birth. Our doula support, like I mentioned earlier, ranges from preconception all the way through postpartum, but also any type of birth our clients are looking for, whether that's planned cesarean, planned induction with epidural, or an unmedicated birth without pain medications.
Okay. Now, if you weren't doing this work, what do you think you would be doing?
It's a little hard. Originally, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And instead I went into education, and I do still use a lot of education in what I do now. I'm just not educating first graders, I'm educating adults. But I probably would be in some type of medical field.
Okay. Now, Tracy, do you have a favorite form of physical activity?
I do. I love hiking. I love the mountains. I love being in nature. That's all really fun to me.
Okay. And tell us, what is one word that your children would use to describe you?
Embarrassing. They range from age 12 to 18. I read a quote once that said, if you don't think your mom is embarrassing, is she really even your mom? And that kind of, I feel like, fits. So yeah, I mean, they love me, and they love it, but I'm sure quite embarrassing to them sometimes.
Okay. I love that quote, by the way.
Yeah.
What's a word that your husband would use to describe you?
Infectious, or a big personality. I think even we're high school sweethearts. We started dating when I was 15. So he's kind of known every phase of me, every kind of person that I've become throughout those years. And I think he would say that I was pretty infectious. So.
Okay. And tell us, when's the last time you had a good cry?
Actually last night. So, raising kids is hard sometimes. And sometimes, I am worried that I'm doing it right, as I'm sure a lot of people are. So yeah, last night.
Yes, lots of crying often over here.
Yeah.
What's the last book you read?
So I can't remember the last one, but I'm currently reading Your Story Brand or Story Brand. I can't remember the title of it now. And also Managing Adult ADHD. So those are, pretty strong, kind of an indicator of my life at the moment. So,
Okay. And what's the last movie you watched?
The Eras Tour movie with Taylor Swift for my 12-year-old. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that you have some really exciting news to share. Who are the first three people that you're going to call?
My best friend, my husband, and my oldest daughter.
Okay, this one is really important. Would you rather bungee jump or swim with sharks?
Bungee jump. I really don't like things in water. And I feel like more people survive bungee jumping.
Okay. Tell us, what is your proudest professional accomplishment?
Yeah, so it's opening my agency. I did solo work for 11 years before I opened up Rocket City Doulas, and being able to mentor and teach and educate doulas who join our team, and watch them flourish in our clients' births and their postpartum times, and just kind of watch them carry on this legacy has been one of the proudest things I think I've ever done.
Okay. And for any woman who may be watching who is considering working with a doula, what advice would you have?
Yeah, I think finding a doula who their belief systems really either match up with yours, or that they're very obviously open to supporting all types of births. Asking important questions like, what happens if I change my mind? Or in the postpartum period, like, will you support me if I'm formula feeding? Kind of pulling out some of the bias that sometimes exists in the birth or postpartum spaces would be like probably one of the number one things I would tell people to do.
Okay. What's your favorite day of the week?
It's Wednesday.
Okay. What house chore do you dislike the most?
Yeah, cleaning showers. I feel like it's a whole body chore. You have to spray it down. You got to get actually physically in the shower. Like, you can't stand outside and clean it. And it takes a long time. Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
I love Thai food.
Mm-hmm. Coffee or tea?
100% coffee. I do like tea, but coffee definitely is hands down my favorite.
When are you able to get the most work done? In the morning, the afternoon, or the evenings?
Yeah, so I actually just was asked this question in another forum too. Typically, I do a lot better in the evenings. However, because I have kids home, it's kind of hard to manage because I do feel like most of my creativity is from 3 p.m. on. But with my kids' schedules and stuff, I typically say 3 to 5, because 5 is really when I need to cut it off to take care of household stuff.
Okay, so you mentioned when your creativity is at its highest. How do you stay creative?
Yeah, I think exploring new things for me, picking up watercolor and just playing with really like no intention of being the best or, super good. There's no expectations for me. I think like just kind of staying in that play space, and exploring new things is one of the ways to stay creative for me.
Okay. What's your go-to act of self-care?
Typically it's a hot bath or a hot shower or a walk. If I'm gonna spend some money, I'd love a massage. So not as often as I'd like, but
yes. So do you prefer eating at home or eating out?
So kind of a mix. Eating out feels more stressful, just with our family and kind of our timelines right now. We're just really busy. And so I don't really love to cook. I'm really tired of, doing that every night for a long time. So I love being able to pick up food and bring it home. So kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that sounds fair. Fair and balanced. What's your favorite vacation spot?
It's Thailand actually, and the food was a huge part of that, but we've been a couple times and are hoping to take our kids back at some point.
Okay. What celebrity would you most like to meet?
So I kind of struggle with this type of question just because I'm not a huge like celebrity geek. I mean, it's fun, I'm sure, if I met somebody who was famous. But probably if I had to choose, maybe Taylor Swift, just so I could win some points with my 12-year-old and tell her that I met Taylor Swift.
Okay. What is something that will surprise us about working as a doula?
Surprise us. Yeah, I think that we stay with clients a long time. Some people are surprised on the postpartum side that we don't have a timeline for when your support needs to end. So some people are like, oh, does it end at 6 weeks or 3 months? And it really is truly unique to the family in front of us. Some people use us for 11 months or 2 years, and then we even help them find a nanny. So we're involved in that process even. So it's kind of, I think, a much longer time that we're with some clients, and I think that surprises people.
Okay. And so I am curious then, if you work with a client for, let's say, 2 to 3 years, what service are you typically providing in that time?
Yeah. So our main goal, like as postpartum and infant care doulas, is the physical and emotional recovery from birth for the person, our client. And that's really our main goal. Anything else we do is to kind of support that. But if we're with a family for multiple years, oftentimes it's really supporting the family unit as a whole, helping them transition into life with children, making their day-to-day more functional, being an extra set of hands. For some people, we'll work with them, with their infant for, let's say, a year, and then they get pregnant again, and they're tired and exhausted, and they can't necessarily play with their toddler like they would like to, or maybe they can't get the dishes and play with their toddler. So the doula's coming in to kind of help with, household tasks, or also, playing with the toddler that they have a relationship with because they've been part of their care team since they were an infant. So, kind of a broad spectrum, but really mainly to help boost family functionality.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So, Tracy, what is one of your greatest strengths?
I think being able to connect with a lot of different types of people, even if we don't have a lot seemingly in common, typically I can find something to connect on a personal level. And I feel like that's obviously super beneficial in my work, but certainly, beneficial in day-to-day relationships too.
Okay. And what's one weakness?
Probably the flip side of that is that sometimes I would much rather have connections than do like admin work. So,
Okay.
I might put off some of the stuff that I don't necessarily want to do because I'd rather have conversations. So,
yeah. Okay. If you had to give up one, which would you? Sweet snacks or salty snacks?
Salty, although I do like both. Sweets probably definitely win.
Okay. What is one of your personal goals for 2024?
So I am struggling with a chronic illness. I was diagnosed a couple months ago. And one of my personal goals is to really try to figure out how to manage that. Not because I can decide when I'm feeling bad or, when I'm going to feel good, but just to try to incorporate some systems and things so that on days when I'm not feeling good, I know that I have good systems in place that, I'm not going to come back the next day to just a complete overwhelm. So just being able to create some systems to help with function with my chronic illness.
Okay. What has been one of your most embarrassing moments?
So when I was in 9th grade, we moved schools. So I had been in a public school K through 12. And in ninth grade, I switched to a private school, which required that we wear skirts and like nylons. And I'd really, really, truly never been a skirts girl. I was never a really girly girl. I played in, outside, climbed trees, that kind of thing. So I wasn't really used to wearing a lot of dress clothes with nylons and things. And so in the very beginning of the semester, I went into the bathroom, I came out, went to my math class, and I even remember it was geometry. And my geometry teacher asked me to come up to the front of the board to do a problem, and everybody started laughing. And my geometry teacher had to come over and tell me, and he was a male, come and tell me that my skirt was tucked into my pantyhose. So, yeah.
That is one of those nightmares that we
yes. Nothing like really introducing myself in a brand new school.
I'm so sorry to happen to you, Tracy.
But hey, I met my husband there, so all is good.
But it worked out.
That's right.
Okay, what is one of the hardest parts of your job?
Yeah. So when you do this work over time, there's definitely going to be experiences with pregnancy loss and infant loss just because of the numbers. And obviously it's really, really hard for our clients, of course. But as support people, it also takes a huge toll on us and our, compassion fatigue type thing, and just really knowing how to best support our clients in those really, really hard times.
Okay. What is one of the most rewarding parts?
When a family, let's say on the birth side, is really empowered and they kind of recognize that they had it in them, right? Like that, oh my gosh, I just did this thing. And on the postpartum side, it's when our doula comes in and we get feedback from the client that's like, my doula gave me so much permission to be the parent that I am. And they take pride. They take permission to have pride in themselves as a parent that maybe they didn't feel before.
Okay. What is one bad habit that you're trying to break?
Negative self-talk with my own body. So just, that's a long process. It's not going to be a quick fix, but just remembering what my body does for me and to not talk negatively to myself about it.
Yeah, I think we all can, most of us anyway, can do a little work on that end.
Yeah. Okay.
So you share with me an embarrassing moment. Tell me, what is one of your fondest childhood memories?
So when I was probably 8 or 9, our golden retriever had puppies. And I am such a huge animal lover. I love cats, kittens, all of that stuff. Dogs, anything, deer. I had a chicken, I loved all animals. And so we were raising these puppies, and one day we found out that my cat had given birth under our outside stairs. So then we also had 8 kittens. So we had 8 kittens and 8 puppies running around, and it was amazing.
Yeah. For you, Tracy, for you.
Yeah, probably not my parents. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that was overwhelming, but I loved it.
What's your least favorite holiday?
Valentine's Day. Not because I don't love my husband and we're not romantic. It's just, well, first it's cold because it's February. But it's just kind of when you've been married a long time, it feels like just another thing you have to do. And I feel like social media in some ways kind of makes it that way too. But
yeah, amps it up, makes it a bigger deal than probably most of us care for it to be. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us what is meant exactly by postpartum care?
Yeah. So I did touch on it just a little bit. So for us, like I said, our main goal is to support the person that has given birth emotionally, physically, mentally, and we're looking to help them recover from the process of giving birth. So anything we sort of do is with that goal in mind. So taking care of the infant, whether that's helping clip their nails or teach a new family how to give their baby a bath, teaching them how to swaddle if they want to swaddle, helping them feed their baby, whether it's formula or breastfeeding, even, holding the baby while they nap or take a shower. That's all, we're kind of approaching all of that with the mindset that we're helping, the parent who's given birth. When we go further out than that, it's household tasks. Like, what are some things that could get in the way of this person resting enough to recover from birth? So if there's dishes, doing dishes, or maybe we're meal prepping so that when we leave, this family has a meal all ready to go, so that our care is extending even when we're not present. Helping them get systems in place so their house runs smoother when the doula's not there. Again, all with the mindset, not because we want to come in and check off a to-do list, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can have a house cleaner come in and sweep and do your dishes and things, right? But we're coming in with the mindset of, how can we help our client recover, bond with their family, get the most out of their postpartum experience. And that's what we want to help them do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Tracy, what is the worst advice you've been given?
So I think with one of our children who struggled with anxiety, it was to just discipline them more, which is pretty terrible advice.
I think that as I'm not a parent, but I can imagine that as a parent, there's always advice that you need help, but there's also so much advice that you have to weed out.
Yes, for sure.
What is the worst advice you think you've given?
Yeah, so mine was definitely pre-parent. I was a pretty good parent before I had children. In fact, I would have said that I was a really good parent before I had children. And so probably along the lines of those types of things of like, oh, you should never, right? Like a lot of those things that completely changed once I actually had children. So.
Yeah. Okay, what is something that you would consider a hidden gem in Huntsville?
So I love the restaurant called Fomus. It's a Vietnamese restaurant in Madison, on 72 across from Sprouts. It's delicious. They have boba. They have, traditional Vietnamese, and the owners are super sweet too.
Okay. And where are you finding inspiration these days?
Yeah, so I think other business owners, doing a lot of collaboration. I have a mastermind that meets once a month, and it's a bunch of different types of business owners. And I feel like in some communities, whether it's birth or, whether it's photography, like we tend to kind of stay in this little bubble of like, this is my community. And I feel like sometimes we lack inspiration in those communities because we're just kind of all saying the same thing. And when you get into like a wider community with different businesses and you hear about the different ways people are doing things, even if what they're doing is completely different, I feel like it sparks a lot of creativity and sparks ideas that, that aren't in your kind of little tiny your space, or maybe not as prevalent in those spaces. So my mastermind is really good at that because it's just a couple of us, but we all have different businesses, and that's a really unique place.
Okay. I think having that variety is very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, we are down to our last two questions. So question number 54, what has been the best part of being featured in the Scout Guide Huntsville?
So kind of in relation to that last answer would be exposure to other different kinds of businesses. Businesses that may have never heard of a doula, people that may not be in that space at all, being able to educate them about what we do and whether or not it's for them or it's for their sister or it's for, their child or their niece or, whatever. They now have access to that information that they wouldn't maybe have had otherwise. And so that's been super unique and super special.
And lastly, what is something that you would like for people to remember about you, Tracy?
That I cared about people, that I wanted to leave a legacy within the doula community. And not just a legacy, but a legacy of doulas who are providing support to the mainstream or masses, like the people having babies, right? Or going through that postpartum time, that, you know, people could look at that legacy and just not even remember me specifically, but remember how important that particular type of support is.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Tracy, and thank you so much for being here. We made it through these 55 questions.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure learning more about you and your business too.
Yes, thank you so much.
And for those of you who have watched, thank you for tuning in, and please stay tuned for the next episode of 55 Questions with the Scout Guide Huntsville.